Have you ever noticed that the wisest women are often the hardest to control? They no longer chase approval. They no longer explain every decision. They no longer lose sleep over criticism, rejection, or what people think of them. What changed? They discovered a truth that most people learn far too late. The moment you give people control over your worth, you give them control over your peace. A wise woman understands that not everyone will approve of her, and she no longer needs them to. Her confidence comes from something deeper, something stronger, and something that people can never take away. In today's reminder, we'll uncover the real reason wise women detach from people's opinions, and the 5 powerful lessons that help them live with confidence, dignity, and trust in Allah. 1. People's opinions constantly change. One of the biggest reasons wise women detach from people's opinions is because they eventually realize a simple but powerful truth. People's opinions are constantly changing. The same people who admire you today may criticize you tomorrow. The same people who support your choices now may question them later. If you build your happiness on what others think about you, your peace will always be in danger. Many women spend years trying to gain approval from everyone around them. They change their behavior, hide their true feelings, and constantly worry about being judged. But no matter how hard you try, you will never be able to satisfy every person. Someone will always have a different expectation, a different preference, or a different opinion about how you should live your life. A wise woman understands that chasing approval is an endless race with no finish line. She realizes that if she receives praise, she should not become overly attached to it, because praise can quickly turn into criticism. And if she faces criticism, she does not allow it to destroy her confidence, because she knows that people's judgments are often based on their own emotions, experiences, and personal biases. Instead of asking, "What will people think?" she begins asking a much more important question: "Is Allah pleased with what I am doing?" This shift changes everything. Her confidence no longer comes from compliments. Her worth no longer depends on validation. Her peace no longer depends on public approval. She understands that people see only a small part of her story, but Allah sees her intentions, her struggles, and the sincerity in her heart. That is why a wise woman stops allowing every opinion to enter her heart. She listens, learns when necessary, and moves forward with dignity, because she knows that when your value comes from your relationship with Allah, the changing opinions of people lose their power over you. 2. Not everyone wants what's best for you. Another reason wise women detach from people's opinions is because they understand a difficult truth that many people learn too late. Not everyone who speaks into your life genuinely wants what is best for you. This may sound uncomfortable, but it is reality. Some people advise you because they care about you, while others speak from jealousy, insecurity, competition, or their own personal frustrations. If you are not careful, you can spend years following voices that were never meant to guide you. A wise woman learns that just because someone has an opinion does not mean that opinion deserves a place in her heart. Many people will tell you what they think you should do, how you should live, who you should become, and what choices you should make. But their advice is often shaped by their own fears, limitations, and experiences. Sometimes people discourage you because they are afraid to take risks themselves. Sometimes they criticize your growth because it reminds them of their own lack of progress. And sometimes they simply do not understand the path Allah has written specifically for you. This is why wise women become careful about whose voices they allow to influence their decisions. They listen respectfully, but they do not blindly accept every opinion. They understand that too many voices create confusion, anxiety, and self-doubt. Instead, they seek guidance from trustworthy people who fear Allah, possess wisdom, and sincerely want good for them. Most importantly, a wise woman remembers that Allah knows what people do not. People see your situation from the outside, but Allah sees the full picture. He knows your intentions, your struggles, your sacrifices, and your future. When a woman develops trust in Allah, she becomes less dependent on the approval of people and more focused on seeking guidance from the one who never misleads. That is why wise women detach from unnecessary opinions, not because they think they know everything, but because they understand that protecting their peace requires protecting their minds. They know that not every voice deserves access to their confidence, their dreams, or their decisions. 3. Seeking approval leads to exhaustion. One of the biggest reasons wise women detach from people's opinions is because they eventually discover how exhausting it is to live for the approval of others. At first, many people do not realize they are trapped in this cycle. They think they are simply being kind, considerate, or respectful. But over time, they begin to notice that almost every decision they make is influenced by one question: what will people think? They worry about how they dress. They worry about what they post online. They worry about the choices they make, the goals they pursue, and even the dreams they carry in their hearts. Instead of living with confidence, they become trapped in a constant state of overthinking. Every decision feels heavy because they are not only carrying their own expectations, they are carrying the expectations of everyone around them. The problem is that people are impossible to satisfy. No matter what you do, someone will disagree. If you stay quiet, some people will call you weak. If you speak up, others will say you are too outspoken. If you focus on your family, some will say you lack ambition. If you pursue your goals, others will say you are neglecting important responsibilities. The moment you try to please everyone, you enter a game that can never be won. A wise woman understands this reality. She realizes that seeking approval from people is like trying to fill a container that has no bottom. No matter how much effort you pour into it, it will never be enough. There will always be another opinion to satisfy, another criticism to avoid, and another expectation to meet. Eventually, this constant pressure drains a person's energy, confidence, and happiness. Many women spend years hiding parts of themselves because they fear judgment. They stay silent when they want to speak. They say yes when they want to say no. They tolerate disrespect because they fear disappointing others. They suppress their feelings, ignore their needs, and sacrifice their peace just to maintain an image that people will approve of. But inside, they become emotionally exhausted because they are living for an audience rather than for a purpose. The wise woman reaches a turning point. She understands that Allah did not create her to spend her life chasing validation from people. She was created to worship Allah, to live with dignity, and to fulfill the purpose He has given her. Once she understands this, she begins to free herself from the burden of needing everyone to agree with her. She no longer measures her worth by compliments, likes, praise, or approval. She understands that her value does not increase when people praise her, and it does not decrease when they criticize her. This does not mean she becomes arrogant or ignores advice. A wise woman remains humble. She listens when sincere guidance is offered. She accepts correction when she is wrong. But she no longer allows every opinion to control her emotions. She no longer changes her identity to fit the expectations of people who may never be satisfied anyway. The most peaceful women are not those who have everyone's approval. They are the women who have stopped needing it. They understand that peace begins when you stop performing for people and start living according to your values and your relationship with Allah. The moment a woman releases the burden of seeking approval from everyone around her, she gains something far more valuable: emotional freedom. And that freedom allows her to walk through life with confidence, strength, and a heart that is no longer exhausted by the opinions of others. 4. Allah's opinion matters. Perhaps the most powerful reason wise women detach from people's opinions is because they come to understand a life-changing truth. At the end of the day, the opinion that matters most is not the opinion of people, it is the opinion of Allah. This realization transforms the way a woman thinks, the way she makes decisions, and the way she views herself. It gives her a kind of peace that no compliment can provide, and no criticism can take away. Many people spend their lives worrying about being accepted by others. They carefully choose their words, their actions, and even their dreams based on how they will be perceived. They fear judgment, rejection, and criticism. They constantly seek reassurance that they are doing the right thing. But the problem with building your life around people's approval is that people are never fully satisfied. Their opinions change. Their expectations change. Their standards change. What impresses them today may disappoint them tomorrow. A wise woman realizes that if she spends her life chasing the approval of people, she will spend her life running in circles. No matter how much she gives, it will never be enough. No matter how hard she tries, there will always be someone who misunderstands her, criticizes her, or questions her choices. Once she understands this, she begins to ask herself a different question. Instead of asking, "What will people think about me?" she asks, "What does Allah think about what I am doing?" This question changes everything. When a woman sincerely begins seeking the pleasure of Allah, many of her fears begin to lose their power. She no longer feels the need to constantly explain herself. She no longer feels compelled to defend every decision she makes. She no longer allows criticism to shake her confidence, because she understands that human beings can only see what is visible, while Allah sees what is hidden inside the heart. People may judge your actions without knowing your intentions. They may criticize your choices without understanding your circumstances. They may make assumptions about your life based on a small piece of information. But Allah knows the complete story. And He knows the struggles you never speak about. He knows the tears you cry when nobody is watching. He knows the sacrifices you make for your family. He knows the battles you fight within yourself. He knows every sincere effort, every private prayer, and every act of patience that nobody else sees. This is why wise women find comfort in Allah's knowledge. They understand that they do not need everyone to understand them because Allah already does. They do not need everyone to appreciate them because Allah sees every good deed they perform. They do not need everyone to acknowledge their struggles because Allah is fully aware of every hardship they carry. Many women become emotionally exhausted because they spend too much time trying to prove themselves to people. They want others to understand their intentions. They want others to recognize their sacrifices. They want others to appreciate their efforts. But a wise woman learns that not every good deed will be noticed by people, and not every sacrifice will be appreciated. Rather than becoming bitter about this reality, she finds peace in knowing that Allah never overlooks even the smallest act of sincerity. When she helps someone and receives no gratitude, she remembers that Allah sees it. When she remains patient during a difficult test, she remembers that Allah sees it. When she lowers her gaze, controls her anger, guards her tongue, and struggles to obey Allah despite challenges, she remembers that Allah sees it. This awareness fills her heart with strength because she is no longer dependent on people for validation. The wise woman also understands that people's praise can be dangerous if it becomes the source of her confidence. Praise feels good, but if your self-worth depends on it, you become a prisoner to it. The moment people stop praising you, your confidence begins to collapse. The moment criticism appears, your peace disappears. This is why wise women learn not to become overly attached to compliments. They appreciate kind words, but they do not build their identity around them. Their confidence comes from something deeper. It comes from knowing that they are striving to please Allah. It comes from knowing that they are trying their best, even when nobody notices. It comes from knowing that their value is not determined by public opinion, but by their sincerity before their Creator. This mindset also protects a woman from unnecessary fear. Many people remain stuck in situations that harm them because they are afraid of what others will say. They stay in unhealthy environments. They tolerate disrespect. They abandon opportunities. They ignore their goals and dreams because they are worried about criticism. A wise woman understands that fear of people can become a barrier between her and the life Allah has planned for her. She reminds herself that every human being is limited. People do not control her future. People do not control her provision. People do not control her destiny. Allah alone is the one who opens doors, closes doors, grants opportunities, and guides hearts. When this belief becomes firmly rooted within her, she stops giving people a level of influence that belongs only to Allah. This does not mean she becomes careless about her reputation or ignores wise advice. Islam teaches us to have good character and to care about how our actions affect others. A wise woman values beneficial advice and constructive feedback. However, she understands the difference between learning from people and living for people. She listens to wisdom, but she does not become enslaved to opinions. The more a woman focuses on pleasing Allah, the less power people's opinions have over her emotions. She still feels hurt at times because she is human. She still experiences disappointment because criticism can be painful. But those opinions no longer control her identity. They no longer determine her worth. They no longer dictate her decisions. Instead, she finds stability in something greater. She finds stability in her relationship with Allah. She understands that the people whose approval she seeks today will not stand beside her on the day of judgment. The crowds she worries about pleasing will not answer for her actions. The critics she fears will not carry her burdens. Every soul will stand alone before Allah. And when a wise woman truly reflects on this reality, her priorities begin to change. She becomes less concerned with impressing people and more concerned with improving her character. She becomes less focused on appearances and more focused on sincerity. She becomes less dependent on validation and more dependent on faith. This is the real reason wise women detach from people's opinions. They discover that peace is not found in winning everyone's approval. Peace is found in knowing that Allah is pleased with you. And once a woman learns to value Allah's opinion above the opinions of people, she unlocks a level of confidence, freedom, and inner peace that no human being can ever take away. 5. Detachment creates strength. One of the greatest misunderstandings people have about detachment is that they confuse it with coldness, pride, or a lack of care. They imagine that a detached person is someone who no longer feels emotions, no longer loves people, or no longer values relationships. But that is not what wise detachment means. In reality, detachment is not about becoming emotionless. It is about refusing to allow your emotions to be controlled by the opinions, approval, and reactions of other people. It is about developing a level of inner strength that cannot be shaken every time someone praises you or criticizes you. This is why wise women eventually learn the power of detachment. They discover that attachment to people's opinions creates weakness, while detachment creates strength. When your happiness depends on what people think of you, you become emotionally dependent on forces you cannot control. Your mood rises when people praise you and falls when they criticize you. Your confidence grows when you receive approval and disappears when approval is withheld. In this state, your peace is no longer yours. It belongs to whoever has the power to influence your emotions. A wise woman refuses to live this way. She understands that true strength begins when you stop handing other people control over your self-worth. She realizes that not everyone deserves that kind of power over her heart. The moment she learns to detach from unhealthy validation, she begins to reclaim her emotional freedom. Think about how many people spend years being controlled by the opinions of others. They hesitate to pursue opportunities because they fear criticism. They avoid speaking the truth because they fear judgment. They stay silent about their needs because they fear rejection. They remain trapped in unhealthy situations because they fear what people might say. Without realizing it, they become prisoners of public opinion. A wise woman eventually recognizes this prison for what it is. She understands that fear of people's opinions can quietly steal years of happiness, confidence, and growth. It can stop a person from becoming who Allah created them to be. That is why she begins the process of detachment, not because she wants to disconnect from people, but because she wants to reconnect with her own dignity. One of the most powerful forms of strength is the ability to remain calm when others misunderstand you. Most people feel an overwhelming urge to explain themselves constantly. They want everyone to understand their intentions. They want everyone to agree with their decisions. They want everyone to see their side of the story. But a wise woman understands that not every misunderstanding needs a defense, and not every criticism deserves a response. She learns that constantly explaining yourself can become emotionally exhausting. Some people have already decided what they want to believe. No amount of explanation will change their minds. Instead of wasting her energy trying to control every narrative, she focuses on controlling her character. She lets her actions speak louder than endless words. This is not weakness. This is strength. Strength is being able to walk away from unnecessary arguments. Strength is refusing to engage with negativity that serves no purpose. Strength is protecting your peace even when you have every opportunity to defend yourself. A wise woman understands that every battle does not deserve her attention. Detachment also creates strength because it teaches patience. Many people react immediately to criticism. They become defensive, angry, or emotionally overwhelmed. Their emotions control them. But a wise woman learns to pause before reacting. She understands that not every opinion requires a response. Sometimes silence is more powerful than explanation. Sometimes dignity is found in restraint. The ability to remain composed during difficult moments is a sign of tremendous inner strength. Anyone can react emotionally. Anyone can lose control in the heat of the moment. But maintaining calmness when others are trying to provoke you requires wisdom and self-mastery. Another reason detachment creates strength is because it reduces fear. Fear is one of the biggest obstacles that prevents people from growing. Fear of rejection, fear of criticism, fear of failure, fear of being judged. These fears keep many people stuck in the same place for years. A wise woman understands that growth often requires courage. It requires making decisions that not everyone will understand. It requires following a path that others may question. It requires trusting Allah even when people doubt you. The more attached you are to people's approval, the harder it becomes to take these necessary steps. But when a woman detaches from the need for validation, she becomes much braver. She no longer waits for universal approval before moving forward. She understands that confidence does not mean everyone agrees with you. Confidence means you continue moving forward despite disagreement. Detachment also strengthens relationships in a surprising way. Many people believe that becoming less dependent on others will weaken their relationships, but the opposite is often true. Relationships become healthier when they are based on mutual respect rather than emotional dependency. A wise woman does not cling to people out of fear. She does not beg for attention. She does not chase validation. She does not constantly seek reassurance of her worth. Instead, she values people while understanding that her happiness does not depend entirely on them. This creates healthier boundaries. It allows her to love without losing herself. It allows her to care deeply without becoming emotionally controlled. It allows her to give without constantly expecting something in return. One of the greatest strengths detachment provides is resilience. Life will always contain disappointment. People will let you down. Some relationships will end. Some friendships will change. Some individuals will misunderstand your intentions despite your best efforts. If your entire identity is built upon people's acceptance, these experiences can completely destroy your confidence. But a wise woman develops resilience because her identity is rooted in something deeper. Her worth comes from her relationship with Allah, not from the opinions of people. This foundation allows her to endure criticism without collapsing. It allows her to experience rejection without losing her self-respect. It allows her to face setbacks without losing hope. She learns that rejection is not always a reflection of her value. Sometimes it is simply part of Allah's plan. Sometimes closed doors are forms of protection. Sometimes distance from certain people creates space for something better. Because her trust is in Allah, she is able to move forward without becoming consumed by bitterness. Detachment also protects a woman from manipulation. Many people are controlled because they desperately need approval. Manipulative individuals often recognize this weakness and use it to their advantage. They know that if someone fears rejection enough, they can influence their decisions, emotions, and behavior. A wise woman becomes much harder to manipulate because she is no longer desperate for validation. She knows her worth. She understands her values. She is not willing to compromise her principles simply to gain acceptance. This gives her a quiet but powerful strength that commands respect. As a woman matures, she begins to realize that strength is not always loud. It is not found in arguments, dominance, or proving others wrong. Often, the strongest people are the calmest people. They are the ones who no longer feel the need to win every debate, explain every choice, or convince every critic. Their strength comes from certainty. They know who they are. They know what they stand for. Most importantly, they know who they are trying to please. This certainty creates a deep sense of peace, and peace is one of the greatest forms of strength a person can possess. A peaceful heart is difficult to shake. A peaceful mind is difficult to manipulate. A peaceful soul is difficult to intimidate. That is why wise women detach from people's opinions. They understand that attachment creates emotional instability, while detachment creates emotional freedom. They understand that approval from people is temporary, but confidence rooted in faith is lasting. They understand that constantly seeking validation weakens the spirit, while trusting Allah strengthens it. The strongest women are not those who never face criticism. They are not those who are praised by everyone around them. They are not those who never experience rejection or disappointment. The strongest women are those who remain steady despite all of these things. They continue doing what is right even when it is unpopular. They continue trusting Allah even when others doubt them. They continue moving forward even when the path feels lonely. This is the power of detachment. It is not about caring less. It is about caring wisely. It is about placing your trust where it belongs. It is about freeing yourself from the exhausting need to be accepted by everyone. And when a woman finally reaches that point, she discovers something beautiful. The opinions that once controlled her no longer have power over her. In their place stands confidence, dignity, resilience, faith, and an inner strength that can only come from trusting Allah above all else. My dear sisters, people will always have opinions. Some will support you, some will misunderstand you, and some will criticize you no matter what you do. If you spend your life trying to satisfy everyone, you may lose yourself in the process. A wise woman understands that peace begins when she stops seeking validation from people and starts seeking the pleasure of Allah. She knows that her worth is not determined by public opinion, but by her sincerity, her character, and her relationship with her Creator. So let people talk if they choose to. Let them make assumptions if they wish. Stay focused on your purpose. Protect your peace. Walk with dignity. And remember, the strongest woman is not the one who wins everyone's approval, but the one who remains firm upon what is right, even when not everyone understands her. May Allah fill our hearts with confidence, wisdom, and sincerity, protect us from the fear of people's opinions, and make us among those who seek His pleasure above all else.